Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss the new stories we share. Let's begin. Be my wife for 1 week or you lose everything. The words hit me like a slap. I stood frozen in the dim light of my grandmother's study, staring at the stranger blocking the doorway. Dust floated between us in the fading sunlight. My grandmother had been buried 3 days ago, and here was this man, this cowboy with calloused hands and storm-gray eyes, speaking to me like he had any right to be here. "I'm sorry." My voice cracked. "Who are you?" He removed his hat. Dark hair fell across his weathered forehead. There was something worn about him, something bone-tired beneath that rugged exterior. "Name's Cole Walker. Your grandmother was my employer for 11 years. Employer. I tasted the word like something bitter. She never mentioned you, not once. She mentioned you plenty. His jaw tightened. Said you were stubborn and independent. Said you'd probably hate me on sight. He wasn't wrong. I'd arrived in Copper Ridge, Montana, expecting to sign papers and claim my grandmother's modest estate. Instead, the lawyer had handed me a sealed letter that made no sense. My grandmother's final request, her dying wish he called it, and somehow this stranger was at the center of it all. "The will is clear," Cole continued, stepping closer. "You have to spend 1 week on the ranch, living there, as my wife. Otherwise, the entire estate goes to the state." My heart slammed against my ribs. "That's insane. It's not legally binding. It's not about legal." His eyes held mine. "It's about what Eleanor wanted." "Eleanor," he called my grandmother by her first name. The intimacy made my stomach twist. "I don't know you." My voice shook now, anger bleeding through the shock. "You could be anyone, a con artist, someone who manipulated a dying woman for her money." Something flickered in his eyes. "Hurt maybe, or patience worn too thin. You can think whatever you want about me." He set his hat back on his head. "But the clock's already running. You've got until Friday to decide." And then he was gone, boots on hardwood, the creak of the screen door, and the growl of a truck engine fading into the Montana night. I stood alone in that dusty room, surrounded by my grandmother's things. Photographs crowded the shelves. Old books lined the walls. The faint scent of lavender still clung to the curtains like a ghost. I hadn't visited in 7 years. Not since my mother's funeral, when grief had driven me away with a vow never to return. Now this place was demanding everything from me. I walked to the window and watched the taillights disappear down the dirt road. Mountains rose black against a sky scattered with stars. Somewhere out there, a stranger was waiting for my answer. Be his wife for 1 week. The absurdity choked me, but beneath it, something else stirred. A question I couldn't shake. Why would my grandmother do this? She was sharp until the end. Lucid, careful. If she'd written this into her will, there was a reason. Standing there in the dark, I realized something terrifying. I was going to say yes, not because of trust, not for money, but because I needed to know what she'd been hiding. The ranch sat at the end of a winding dirt road, surrounded by golden fields and ancient oaks. It was beautiful in a way that hurt. The kind of beauty that reminds you how much time you've wasted staying away from places that once meant something. Cole met me on the porch the next morning. He looked different in daylight, less threatening, more tired. "Guest rooms upstairs," he said, taking my bag without ceremony. "Kitchen's through there. You can go anywhere on the property except the back barn." "Why not the back barn?" He paused, his grip tightening on my suitcase. "Because I said so." And just like that, the wall was back up. The first 2 days passed in awkward silence. We ate meals separately, orbiting each other like strangers forced to share a life neither had chosen. He worked the land from dawn to dusk, and I wandered the house like a ghost, searching for clues about why my grandmother had orchestrated this madness. I found old furniture and faded photographs. Pictures of her with my grandfather before he died. Pictures of my mother as a child, grinning in the summer sun. And then, tucked in a drawer beneath old linens, something that stopped my heart. A photograph of Cole, young, maybe 20, standing next to a woman with auburn hair and a smile that could light up a room. They were holding a baby between them. I didn't know he had a family. That night I heard something, a sound that didn't belong, soft footsteps above my head in a part of the house Cole had told me was empty. I lay in bed, heart pounding, listening to the ceiling creak. Someone was up there. The next morning, I watched Cole more carefully. He moved with purpose, always glancing toward the upper windows, always checking his phone, always tense like a man carrying a weight he couldn't put down. "Who else lives here?" I asked over breakfast. His fork froze midair. "No one. I heard someone walking last night above my room." "Old house." He didn't meet my eyes. "Settles at night. Pipes make noise." He was lying. I could feel it in my bones that afternoon. While Cole was fixing fences in the south field, I climbed the stairs he'd told me to avoid. Each step groaned beneath my weight. The hallway above was dark, lined with closed doors that felt like secrets waiting to be uncovered. But one door was slightly open, and behind it I heard breathing. I pushed it open, heart in my throat. And there, sitting on a small bed with a stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5. Wide brown eyes, tangled dark hair, a bruise fading yellow on her tiny arm. "Please don't tell," she whispered. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Her name was Lily. She was Cole's niece, the daughter of his younger brother Marcus, and she was the reason everything had been set in motion. Cole found me in the hallway an hour later. His face went pale when he saw the open door, the stuffed rabbit still in my hands. For a moment, I thought he might rage at me. Instead, his shoulders dropped like a man finally letting go of a burden too heavy to carry. "I didn't want you to know," he said quietly. "Not yet. Tell me everything." We sat on the porch as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, and there in the fading light he told me a story that broke my heart. Marcus had married a woman named Diane 3 years ago. At first she seemed perfect, charming, attentive, loving in all the ways that mattered. But after Lily was born, something changed. Diane became controlling, then cruel. Marcus tried to leave, but Diane had connections. Lawyers, money, power that reached into every corner of their small town. She got full custody. Marcus got supervised visits once a month, watched by people Diane paid to report his every move. And then 6 months ago, Lily showed up on Cole's doorstep in the middle of the night. Marcus had driven 200 miles with her, bruises on her arms, fear in her eyes. "He begged me to hide her," Cole said, his voice rough with emotion. Said Diane had started hurting her. Said the courts wouldn't listen because Diane had everyone paid off. "Where's Marcus now?" Cole's jaw tightened. "Jail. Diane had him arrested for kidnapping his own daughter." The injustice of it burned in my chest like fire. "Your grandmother found out," Cole continued. "She'd been like a mother to me since I started working here. When she saw Lily, she didn't hesitate. She helped me hide her, set up that room, made sure no one knew. And the will. Eleanor knew she was dying. She knew I couldn't protect Lily alone, not legally." He looked at me then, and for the first time I saw the desperation behind those storm-gray eyes. "The inheritance isn't about money, it's about custody. If you claim the estate as my wife, you become Lily's legal guardian under Montana law. Diane can't touch her." The weight of it settled over me like a stone. My grandmother hadn't been manipulating me. She'd been trusting me with a child's life. That night I returned to Lily's room. She was awake, watching the stars through her window. "Are you going to send me back?" she asked. I sat beside her on the bed. "No, sweetheart, I'm not. Promise." I took her small hand in mine, feeling how fragile those tiny fingers were. "I promise." The next 3 days were the closest thing to peace I'd felt in years. Mornings, I helped Cole with the animals. Afternoons, I spent with Lily reading her stories, teaching her to braid friendship bracelets, listening to her laugh like bells in the mountain air. At night, Cole and I talked on the porch, and slowly the walls between us crumbled into something that felt almost like trust. He told me about losing his parents young, about how my grandmother had given him a job when no one else would, about how he'd spent his whole life trying to be worthy of the kindness she'd shown him. I told him about my mother, how her death had hollowed me out completely, how I'd run from this place because the memories were too painful to bear, how I'd spent 7 years building a life that looked perfect on the outside but felt empty in every way that mattered. "Eleanor used to talk about you," Cole said one night. "She said you had her fire, said you just forgot how to use it." I didn't know how to respond, so I just sat there watching the stars, feeling something warm and unexpected bloom in my chest. But peace never lasts. On the 5th day, a black SUV pulled up the driveway. Diane stepped out, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits. She was everything I expected. Cold eyes, perfect hair, a smile that never reached her face. "I know she's here," Diane said, "and you're going to give her back." Cole stepped in front of me. "You're trespassing. I have a court order." She held up a document like a weapon. "Lily is my daughter. You've been hiding her illegally. Hand her over now, or I'll have you both arrested." My blood ran cold. The document was real, official, signed by a judge who'd been paid to look the other way. "You bought that ruling," I said, stepping forward. "Just like you bought everything else." Diane's smile tightened. "You must be the granddaughter, the one who hasn't visited in 7 years. What makes you think you have any right to be involved?" "Because Eleanor made me her heir. Under Montana law, that gives me legal standing over any minor residing on this property." Her smile faltered just for a second. 24 hours, she said. "Then I'm coming back with the sheriff." The SUV disappeared, and Cole turned to me, fear in his eyes. "She's right, we can't fight this, not legally." "Then we fight it publicly." My mind was racing. She's powerful because no one knows what she's done. If we expose her, she loses everything. How? I pulled out my phone. I have a friend, a journalist in Billings. If we can get Lily's medical records and Marcus's testimony, we can blow this wide open. Cole stared at me. You'd risk everything. I looked toward the window where Lily was watching. Some things are worth the risk. The next 24 hours were a blur of desperate hope. My friend Sarah arrived by midnight with her camera equipment. We gathered everything. Photographs of Lily's bruises documented by a local doctor. Medical records Cole had secretly obtained. A recorded phone call with Marcus from prison, his voice breaking as he described what Diane had done to their daughter. By morning, we had a story, and Sarah had the platform to tell it. The article went live at noon. Within hours, it was everywhere. Local news picked it up first, then national outlets. Social media exploded with outrage. Diane's carefully constructed image crumbled in real time, piece by piece. By evening, the sheriff arrived, but he wasn't there to take Lily. He was there to arrest Diane. Turns out, when you abuse a child, you can only hide it for so long. The medical evidence was damning. Other witnesses came forward, teachers, neighbors, a former nanny. Diane's own family turned against her when they saw the truth. And just like that, the monster was gone. The weeks that followed were quieter, paperwork, court dates, endless meetings with lawyers who finally wanted to help, but slowly things fell into place. Marcus was released, charges dropped. He showed up at the ranch on a Tuesday afternoon, tears streaming down his face as Lily ran into his arms screaming his name. "Thank you," he said to me, his voice breaking. "You didn't have to do any of this." But I did. I knew that now. Cole and I stood on the porch watching the reunion. The sun was setting, painting the mountains gold and amber. "So," he said, "the week's over." I smiled. I noticed. You could go back to your life. No one would blame you. I looked at him, at this man who had risked everything to protect a child who wasn't his own, at the ranch that had somehow become home, at the life I hadn't known I was missing. And I found it. What if I don't want to go back? He turned to me, hope flickering in those storm-gray eyes. Then stay. I reached for his hand, rough and warm and real. Okay. Lily came running across the yard. She grabbed both our hands and pulled us toward the house where Marcus was waiting. "Are you staying forever?" she asked. I looked at Cole. He looked at me. "Yeah, sweetheart, I think I am." My grandmother's plan had worked, not because she was manipulating us, because she knew us better than we knew ourselves. She knew I needed purpose. She knew Cole needed help. She knew Lily needed protection, and somehow she brought us together. I looked around that kitchen, heart full for the first time in years, and whispered a silent thank you to the woman who loved me enough to give me this. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.